Tsunami warning in Japan, 7.4 magnitude earthquake. Earthquake in Mexico, 6.4 magnitude.
It's the outside...
And markets in the US down 0.5% on the back of this.
The outside skin of the planet is falling off totally. You know, it's like in that movie 2012. Did you see it?
Yes, I did actually.
What a great classic.
But you're an eternal optimist. I thought you were going to have an optimistic spin on this.
So I went into the control room a moment ago, rushed around looking to see what was going on with this Japan thing, because we were sort of drifting sideways and then there was a big fall off in the market around sort of 435, and that apparently is the reason. It looks like it's a 7.4 Richter scale quake. It's 20 k's off the coast of Sendai, actually no, 40, whereas the last big one, which was obviously much more serious, and they're expecting a tsunami wave of around 3 feet. So this
not
is
nearly as dire as the previous tsunami.
So we'll have to wait and see how market absorbs this, but obviously the world's second biggest economy. We know natural disasters are not something to sell off your markets on, but of course, you know, these things are not exactly net
positives. Well, you're still also dealing with a nuclear disaster, and you've got all sorts of other things that are sort of hanging in the air, and you've got oil prices at $123 a barrel. There is perhaps reason to worry.
Yes, for those that are inclined to worry, that they would be worrying. Yes.
So let's look at Jean-Claude Trichet, because he is a man that is worrying about inflation at this point, and it remains to be seen if Ben Bernanke, the Fed chairman, is watching to see what moves the ECB president is making. 25 basis point hike. My question to you is, why are you hiking, but at the same time pumping the market with liquidity through this emergency fund that you've come to the fore with, and you're buying up bonds, but you're raising rates because of inflation?
Well, I think it does make sense if you think about it in context of the overall economic management of the region. So you want normalized money and you want interest rates to get off the ground zero.
Yes.
So you're starting to send the signal that there's an economic recovery going and that you want more normalized monetary policy. At the same time, you've got these very weak countries at the periphery, like Portugal, which peaked economically in 1451 and has been going downhill ever since. They need to, reorganize themselves, and it makes more sense for them to access these Central European funds rather than to try and issue euro-denominated bonds on their own balance sheet. So that kind of makes sense. I mean, I think the reason the markets haven't sold off on this is because it was assumed by now that both of these developments would in fact be coming, the Portuguese bailout and the normalization of interest rates. And I think with Europe, it's always about the market watching to see whether the mechanism works, whether France and Germany are behaving in the way that it's expected they will, whether the bailout funds will be applied in a sensitive fashion. And so far, it seems to me anyway, as though people are getting what they expect or seeing what they expect.
Paul, it's also quite fascinating to see, as I mentioned, money supply increasing dramatically. We're talking, and the ECB president is talking about higher commodity prices pushing inflation up. Isn't excess money supply pushing inflation up? I mean, Peter Major said it best to me once, and he said, Eleni, inflation is created by governments, not by commodity prices.
Yeah, but you know, my view about this stuff is that inflation will never be a problem again, ever. You know, it's all about where the expectations are that inflation will be managed. I think the credibility of the ECB is still relatively high. But anyway, we should all be watching golf by now, right?
Yes, I know a lot about golf.
The US
Should I tell
Masters,
you about it, or rather you tell me about it?
That and the US presidential campaign and whether Donald Trump is going to be the Republican candidate. Wonderful stuff.
And of course, Man U 1-0 against Chelsea, if I'm not mistaken.
That was such a boring game. You should have been watching the Barca game.